Lebs On League would like to dedicate this episode to our fallen Anzac heroes.
Where's the ball? I just told you. It's shit. It's a low blow.
It's a low blow. It's not great.
People should ring and complain. Who do they ring if there's a complaint?
Good evening and welcome to Lebs On League episode 2 on this 25th of April 2012, Anzac Day. I hope you had a great day remembering the lost and the fallen for these great soldiers defending our country. But we will move on because we're here to talk about Rugby League. With me again today I've got Bass and Cousin Al. And we are missing Bull today, as you can see. Unfortunately, he won't be able to make it, but he will be with us next week.
We've got an injury on the panel.
He pulled the pube.
We do have a bench warmer that's going to be joining us for next week, and more on that a little bit later. But anyway, look, I think right off the bat, what we want to talk about is things like a mid-season test match, Australia versus New Zealand, city-country games. Is there any value in the city-country games? What's the point of having these things? You know, so much danger of someone hurting themselves for the season, and what did we really get out of this?
Well, firstly from me, lest we forget, let me start off by saying that.
Respect to the diggers.
Respect to the Aussie diggers, absolutely. Greatest country in the world, defended by the greatest men in the world. Mate, mid-season test matches, you know, the chance of injury happening for a one-off test match, like, you know, if you were Shane Flanagan and you lose Paul Gallen for the entire season,
It's a big loss.
which would derail your entire campaign, yes or no?
Big loss.
Like the backbone of the Cronulla Sharks, gone.
Yeah, but how all of a sudden it's Australia and New Zealand? I know we've played like this for the last few years, but all of a sudden, not even in the middle of the year, they bring out Australia and New Zealand test match. Why? Because it's Anzac Day?
Yeah, they try and coincide it with Anzac Day, granted.
Yeah,
but you know what?
or-
You know, have it on a weekend, standalone game, whatever. It doesn't. I just think a mid-season test match.
There's no reason.
There's no value in there for the clubs. You know, I know everybody wants to represent their country. It's the greatest honour in the world. But
There's
I
always
think
a time to do that.
absolutely,
At the end of the year, maybe.
absolutely. Like Russell Crowe once said, in his movies, you don't have the climax of the movie in the middle. You have it at the end of a season. Origin should be at the end of a season. Test matches should be at the end of a season.
Red footy.
Red footy should happen at the end of... Like, look at the Union, right? I don't want to give them too much credence here. This is a rugby league thing. But they have their season, and then at the end of the season, they have their representative fixtures.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit.
It doesn't make sense.
It's just been the way it's always been with rugby league.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's right, though.
Doesn't mean it's right. I totally agree with you, and I totally agree with you, Russell Crowe. I really believe that we should have the biggest event at the end of the year. And let's face it, State of Origin is the biggest event that we have.
You got a player like the Kiwi that just gave up his rights to play for Tamo. He gave up his rights to play for New Zealand because he wants to play Origin.
Who wouldn't
Because
want to play Origin?
Origin is the pinnacle of this game.
I used to play Origin.
What sort of Origin did you play?
Just, what was it? Punchbowl against Bankstown?
Punchbowl versus Bankstown. No,
Yeah.
a massive
That's-
event.
that's a
Once
huge
again,
event.
and you know what I loved about that Origin? They played hard, just like they do in the
Yeah.
State of Origin in Rugby League. It's the hardest form of Rugby League I've ever
Punchbowl
seen.
beat Bankstown.
It's harder than what I saw Kiwis versus Australia. It's harder than, you know, the World Cup.
It's a tough gig, Johnny.
So I think what's most important to us is making sure that our players are fit.
No supporter of any club wants to see. Well, obviously, when you have Australia versus New Zealand, it's the elite of the elite playing for their country, and you don't want to see your top players going down in a game and losing them for the whole year.
So early in the season.
So early in the season
What was
as well.
the worst part? What was the worst thing about that Test match, Australia v New Zealand? The worst thing that you could possibly imagine.
That wasn't even shown live.
Well, all right, it wasn't shown live, but mate, I missed out on a week of NRL.
Yeah,
There's no
missed out on
games.
a week of NRL. It's a good point there,
There's no
Cousin Al.
games.
I'm with you on that one.
There were no games in NRL. All right, we watched a Test match.
You'd think they'd have standalone games, Origin time, where it's a harder footy. Then you'd have wasting that this
just
early
doesn't
in the
make
season.
sense. It doesn't
and then
fit.
to top it all off,
You know, look, it doesn't fit. We get it. It just doesn't fit. Now,
And
something
then-
needs to happen
and
about
and then to
that.
top it all off, that same weekend they had a nufty game called City v Country.
Well, let's talk about City v Country. I mean,
Once upon a time,
That's
it was
Seriously, man.
it was fair income,
Yeah.
a selection criteria for Origin.
because
Well,
also,
younger then.
and let's also not forget, they were real country players. They were real city players.
Absolutely.
Right now, it's a bit of a let's get the balance right here and make sure it's a good game.
And with all due respect to the players that played, there were certain individuals.
It's a red
let's
jersey.
let's not name Matt King. There were certain individuals that have no hope in hell of playing for New South Wales that were playing in that game. Now, I'd rather see
not a
an
trend.
18, a 19-year-old kid who may never play Origin, but at least is getting a chance, just so we can have a look. Why are we having a look at players that are way past their use-by date. And to top it all off, Wayne Bennett.
Oh, we're back on Wayne.
Hang on.
I love you, Wayne.
I've got to mention this.
I like you,
Wayne
Wayne.
Bennett endorsed Danny Badiris, then said to Danny, I
Gotcha.
don't want you to play in the City Country game, but New South Wales, you should still pick him for your Origin side.
We can't go back on Wayne Bennett. I'll get pumped up on Wayne Bennett.
Yeah, we've done enough of Wayne, and also it was vindicated.
So I talk with my hands when you say Wayne Bennett.
If you don't play City Country, you shouldn't be chosen for New South Wales. I reckon any person who's in the mix, if you're not playing in the City Country game, it's ridiculous. There's no need to have that game anymore.
And that's what it used to be. But look, just on Matt King, I'd like to say I'm a really big fan. I've been a fan of Matt King ever since he was playing at Melbourne. Now that he's playing at South Sydney, by all means, even a bigger fan. But the thing is, I know that he is not going to make the State of Origin team. What he's doing there, risking injury and risking a season with South Sydney,
there you go.
Would have made me really
it
upset.
It derails club campaigns.
And he's not going to get it over Josh. He's not going to get it over Williams. But I do love watching the man play. And if you're watching Matt, big ups, buddy.
It's just another rep game that's out of whack. It just
But
doesn't
the other
fit.
thing is, what about Jared Hay being played at 5'8"?
There you go.
What is the story with
Last year, our New South
It's
Wales
got no hope
coach...
at playing 5'8" for the Blues.
Absolutely not. But Ricky Stewart, this is our coach last year, says, there is no spot for you, Jared Hayne, in my New South Wales side at number 6, and I refuse to play players out of position.
And he's injured. He's playing injured.
Well, guess what? 12 months on. Let's fast forward 12 months.
Really?
Jared Hayne is playing City Country at 5'8", and Ricky Stewart wants to have a look at him at 5'8".
At 5'8".
So he's
not
done
a
a
5'8".
full about face, a full reversal on what he's... This is why we're a laughing stock.
Okay.
And then hang on a second, it gets
He's not
better.
a 5'8".
It gets better. TK and Slats...
Who?
TK and Slats...
Never heard of him.
had Cameron Smith on their show, and they went to Cameron and they said, Cam, who do you think should play halfback for New
Why
South
are they
Wales?
asking him for?
Okay.
Like, so here we go again, asking Queenslanders who we should have in our side.
What did he say?
You know what, I don't want to...
Did he say...
I
He
think,
actually
I think
said-
the question was, do you think Pearce did enough to get the halves job or something?
Did you think Pearce did enough to get the half job?
Mate, he
Well,
could
can I-
have a bad game.
Could I weigh in here? Listen,
But he's been there, done that.
what you got to understand is, if you're playing in a mediocre club side, it's very hard for you to stand out. You put Mitchell Pearce in a gun New South Wales side, he's going to be a far better player. And I think that goes for a lot of players.
Everyone lives in Origin.
Everybody lives in Origin.
So, go on.
Given a cracker pack of forwards to work for him, I'm sure he'll be a bit of a standout more than he will be at the Roosters thus far this year. And that's taking that into account for most players. Like Parramatta coming last in the comp, Jared Hayne's in the mix at 5'8". You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again,
And
Jared
Pearce got
Hayne
pummeled.
will lift in the Origin side.
They all
As
live,
he's done before, but Jared Hayne
He's not a
has
5'8".
a real tendency to be hit and miss. And can we afford to have a hit and miss player
And he's injured.
playing State
Not
of
at
Origin?
5'8". Look,
Not
like
at
I said,
5'8", not even at fullback in my
Absolutely, at fullback.
As a winger. If anything, if he makes a side, he'll make it as a winger. Because you can't put
So do you
can't
think-
put him at fullback.
Do you think he
I
has a
disagree.
hope in hell?
I
over
absolutely
Todd Carney?
disagree.
Mate, you can't. I'll put Brett
Jared
Morris.
Hayne-
Morris is on fire.
Brett Morris is a better winger than he's a fullback. Jared Hayne, with the room at fullback,
I don't like Jared Hayne now. He's up there with Wayne Bennett with me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Lebs On League. We'll be back again next week where Bull, Bass, Cousin Al and myself discuss rugby league. See you then.